Would you like us to continue?
Yeah,
Oh,
no, Chris has come in. All good.
Great.
Sasha. He didn't bring any cookies or coffee else.
No biscuits or no BYO there.
Nothing.
Well, thanks again. You thanked us for coming this morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this morning, to each of you. Just to clarify who each of us are, Stuart, I know myself and Ron have liaised with yourself, but for Chris, Andrew and Adrian. So my name's Sasha. I'm one of the sales leaders here based in our Brisbane head office. And we also have Ron Wheel, who is one of our Scout specialists, and he sits in our Melbourne-based office.
Yep, all good.
And there he is. Bit of a delay there.
Hello, everyone.
So just to give you a very brief overview, as Stuart mentioned, so we've got just shy of an hour now with you this morning. What our plan is really just to give you an introduction to Scout. So what is Scout? It's an e-recruitment tool, an indication of where Scout sits in the market currently. Again, you're looking at a number of different providers, so really just help ascertain where it sits and what it provides. We'll take a little bit of a review of your current process, so what it looks like and some of those key key areas that we need to incorporate in the system. Then Ron will actually take you through the demonstration of Scout. So we'll look at those relevant features that are going to be pertinent in your new tool. And there'll be an opportunity certainly for some questions at the end if there is any. How does that sound?
Sounds great. Thank you.
All good? We can hear us? Great. Okay. So if we go... Perfect. So if I give you a little bit of an overview in regards to Scout. So Scout is in-house built. It's purpose-built specifically for recruitment as well. So, we understand all of the ins and outs and the process around recruitment in its entirety. So it's been built specifically for that purpose. As a system, it's currently utilised globally. So we've got over 11,000 clients currently using Scout as their e-recruitment tool, and in over 10 countries. So our head office, as I mentioned earlier, is based here in Brisbane. We've got presence across Australia as well as Canada and the US. We do have a large presence in both local, state and federal government users within Scout, but also a number of clients who are WA-based. Some of those clients include Aegis, who you might be familiar with. They're about a 3,000 strong organisation. Flight Centre, who you'll no doubt know. And we work and assist them globally. And more recently, Communicare, which is a really large community service provider there in WA. One key aspect, which I think is quite unique to our team, is that we do provide really comprehensive customer support. Because we are in-house built, it means we're obviously Australia owned. We have dedicated support teams based here in our head office and, as I said, Canada and the US, so we can provide that all-round support. But should you decide to move forward with Scout, your support team will comprise of a designated account manager, an implementation project manager and a customer success specialist who sits within a team of individuals who will be there at your disposal. So really just means that we can provide on-site, in the moment support to you and the teams. So
Beautiful.
That's a little bit about Scout. Ron, would you mind just maybe showing some examples of our who we're working with in WA?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Sasha. We had a look at obviously our clients, and we tried to find some relevant examples. And as Sasha mentioned, we have a great presence at all levels of government. And I'll show you just a few of those examples before I hand back to Sasha. So can you all see this? This is the site for the Sydney Harbour Ferries. Can you all see that?
Yep.
So one of the things that Scout does really well is that we integrate with our clients' career sites, and we're very big on branding. So I just wanted to showcase that a little bit for you. So this, for example, is Sydney Harbour Ferries, and you can see that there is a selection of roles that are available, and that's all directly linked to the Scout system. They've also got some job alerts, which is cool. a more recent client of ours is Mona in Tasmania, getting quite a bit of recognition at the moment for single-handedly raising tourism in Tasmania. So it's a great organisation, and this is their career site, and this is the role that they've got at the moment, which is just a general employment role. Another one is University of Sydney Union. This is their career site. And if I just scroll down, you can see that we really do seamlessly integrate with our client's website. And I've always wanted to be a barista, so I want to apply for this role. And I just want to show you that, I guess, the candidate experience. We work really hard to ensure that that experience is a positive one and is also most definitely mobile optimized, so a candidate can apply for a role on any device. And essentially, we create this branded template. The client, being yourselves, controls the content, but a candidate can view this form on pretty much, and they would be directed anywhere. Like, they would see this form through any job board or through your own career site. And then a candidate can apply with Seek or with Indeed or with LinkedIn to really simplify the application process. They can answer a few questions, and then they can submit their application. So it's a very simple process, and it's completely configurable. Just a couple of other examples. University of Wollongong. We've also got Relationships Australia and New South Wales. GEO in Queensland. So there's just a wide selection. And I just want to show you one last one, which is one of our council clients. So here's just a good selection. There's a whole range of clients that we've got, council clients across Australia. This is just a selection. And I want to show you now, Brian, because this is perhaps the latest version of our application process. I'm just going to click on that finance role, just as well the finance people aren't here today.
Yeah.
This is what we call an enhanced skin. So it's I guess, a new generation of our application or advertisement for candidates. So when a candidate comes to this page, we're trying to make it really appealing for them and give them as much information in a visually appealing way. So this is an example, and it's really cool, really straightforward, easy to read, and a candidate can apply for this role. Back to you, Sash.
It looks great. I think it's back to you, Ron. Let's just having a look at where Scout is in the marketplace.
Oh, that's back to me, is it? Hang on a second. Let me just see if I turn this on. Okay.
All right. For your information, there is a lag on the phone, so don't feel bad if you don't hear anything from us. It's not that we're not in the room. We're just very happy for you to keep going, and we'll interrupt if and when we have questions.
Okay,
perfect.
No, that's cool. And we have allowed for plenty of question time at the end as well. So where does Scout sit in the HR technology circle? It's a really interesting market at the moment, and I've done quite a bit of research over the last year, and it's a very rapidly changing market, and I'll talk more about this at the end of the presentation. And I think everyone in the room will understand what we're looking at here. You know, we're talking about the life cycle of an employee, from the moment that they might want to work for an organisation, where they might register their interest and become part of a talent community, to a direct advertisement where they'll actually apply for a role, and that all forms part of the recruitment process. And then from there we have the onboarding and performance management, and then the training that encompasses that, and succession planning and workforce planning, and all these elements that determine the success of an organisation by managing their talent effectively. So in terms of Scout, we're at that number 2 point. We have, we're masters in providing recruitment solutions, and we'll also touch on a little bit later on about our work that we're doing in terms of talent pipelines and talent communities.
Great, thanks, Ron.
All right, now it's over to you, Sash.
A review of your current process. So you'll all be familiar with this process, and I guess this is very much in line with our previous conversation, Stuart. So there are 7 key, very distinctive steps that are currently taking place, and are obviously very integral to what the system you have in place and ensuring that it does incorporate each of these steps. So first and foremost, yes, yes, it does. So with your current process, you have the initiation. We refer to it as requisition. So again, having your line manager basically request to hire for a specific vacancy. From there, there's the job creation. So we know again at the moment the content of that role is created by each relevant agency in relation to their specific job, the contact details and so forth, and that's all created and posted through your current system. Redeployment, so highlighting those vacancies to the relevant agencies first and foremost before going externally, and again Scout manages that in a slightly different process. Then there's the posting of the vacancy, and I guess this is really where there isn't a lot of consistency across the agencies. We do know each job is posted on your current site, so the jobs.wa.gov.au, and then my understanding is there's obviously a lot of independent decisions around where else each agency might advertise. So some of those external mediums, possibly even the use of external recruitment agencies on occasion. The candidate management, so as the candidate comes through, when are they being liaised with, when are they being spoken to, what does that interview process look like? Again, probably not a huge amount of consistency across the agencies around what that looks like and the process itself. On to an appointment, you know, once you've gone through that process, great news is you've got a successful candidate. What does that process look like? The letter of offer, the bringing them on board, and ultimately the onboarding, so having them affiliate within your relevant systems, ready to commence employment on day one. So that's really the 7 key steps, and what we'll do now...
For a second.
Oh, sorry?
Yeah, we've got you... No, you've got it exactly right, except we don't have onboarding.
Oh, you don't have that currently? That's right.
No, but we want it.
So exclude that last part, because we're going to show you how Scout adds that 7th element into your process. So there's a really nice little infographic which really shows you that seamlessly Scout provides that full 7-step process that you would be looking for in a system moving forward. So I might pass over to yourself, Ron, really just to demonstrate how Scout will provide that in streamlining your current process and obviously that onboarding feature which you are looking for this time around.
Thanks, Tash.
Yes, that's a good up. We actually, what you've shown there is very close to what we'd like as an absolute minimum going forward.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. All right. I'm probably going to take around about the next 20 minutes or so, taking you through the Scout system in terms of addressing those points, and then at the end of that, we're going to talk a little bit more about our other capabilities, and then we'll have time for Q&A. So I think just in terms of trying to keep this presentation flowing, if we can hold off the questions until the end, that might make it easier to flow. But if it's a question that you really want an answer to there and then, please by all means do holler. All right. So in terms of the Scout solution, naturally it's a cloud-based solution. So I've taken the liberty of personalising the dashboard for yourselves today. And you can see it's a very intuitive and friendly interface. You know, you can hide menu systems. It's got collapsible sections. It's very quick and simple. You can access it on an iPad or on your laptop, and works really easy. And the idea is that minimal training is required in order to be able to use this system. In terms of access levels, this is what you're seeing at the moment is what I would refer to as the HR system. And then later on, I'll show you the hiring manager view, and the hiring manager view is designed to be a much more simplified interface and less clutter and so forth, with the same layout. Now, in terms of the very first part of the process, in terms of that requisition or approval form, what I want to do now, hopefully my screen flickering at your end, Stuart?
Yeah, a little bit. little bit.
Okay. All right, I'm going to kick this. Okay, just bear with me for a minute.
You're all right. All good.
All right, let me just minimize that. Okay, so can you all see my screen all right?
Yes, yes.
Yep.
Yep, good. Okay, I've just turned off my other monitors, which seem to be conflicting. All right, so what I want to do is I want to log out, and I want to pretend to be a hiring manager. And I think this is one of the key points of Scout. It's a really simple system to use. So if you can imagine a hiring manager who has their own access and they log into the system, this is their dashboard. So they don't have all of the administration functions down the left, and they also only see the roles that they're responsible for. And that's a really important point. And then the first step in that process is that approval form. Now, the hiring manager simply just needs to come in here, click on approval form, and then click on create new approval. Now, this approval form is a completely configurable form, and you can have multiple forms, perhaps for a new hire or a replacement. And you can see the type of content that we can have. You know, you can have text, you can have yes, no's, multiple choice. It's a very intuitive form, really easy to use. It can be as long or short as you need it to be. And then down the bottom, it does support multiple attachments. And most importantly, it does support multiple approvers. So the idea is that the hiring manager can select from a list in terms of who the approvers need to be, and it does also support multiple approvers, and it can be pre-configured. But essentially what will happen is once the form is submitted, it will then travel via email to the approver, and they can actually view this form within the email. They can approve it and they can reject it directly within the email. And if they do reject it, it will ask for a comment. The approver doesn't need to log into Scout to approve it. It's all directly linked to the email, so it's nice and quick and simple. They can do it on their smartphone. And the hiring manager will always have a visual perspective of seeing where that request is at. So at the moment, he's got a role for a gopher. He can see it's currently pending. And if there are multiple approvers, he could drill down and see who it's actually stuck with. And the system does include built-in notifications if people don't approve within a certain time frame. Now I'm going to switch back to being the HR dashboard, which is me. So if you can imagine, the HR person might be dealing with, dozens of hiring managers. There would be literally dozens of requests in the system at any one time. So they have a similar screen, but they'll see all the requests from all the different hiring managers across the business. And the same functionality applies, that if there are multiple approvers, they can drill down and see exactly who it's with. And if they need to make changes, the HR person can do so. Okay, so once that request is approved, it's then time to actually advertise the role. Now that's all built in to Scout. So in terms of the way that we do that, I'm going to bring up this particular role down the bottom here, which is the Manager of Corporate Services. I think I picked this up from the Department of Education. Yeah, so I picked this up the other day. It's one of your live roles. And essentially, the principle behind Scout is that you create the job advertisement in Scout, and then you tell the system where you want to advertise the role. So the state over here is the link between Scout and your career site, and it's a direct link, so that the moment that you click publish, it will automatically appear in your careers listing on your website. And that's what I showed you earlier before with some of those examples, including Mona and Narrabri Shire Council. Now, if you want to advertise the role on any other job boards, we have various capabilities around that. So we've got this multi-poster that will enable you directly from Scout to post to job boards such as Seek. But we also support other niche job boards as well. So there might be, the local government jobs board, or any other Gumtree, or Facebook, or LinkedIn, or Twitter. Wherever you'd like to be able to advertise the role can be managed through Scout. But we even have this cool little ad hoc capability. This link down the bottom is a direct link to the application page. And some of our clients actually use that to post it themselves into, for example, their Facebook feed or onto their LinkedIn page. So there's a number of different ways that you can actually advertise the role. And the cool thing about the advertising is that candidates can also share it themselves as well. You may have noticed before when I was showing you the candidate experience that you've got these buttons at the top of the advertisement. So a candidate, they see this job and they know friends that might be interested. They can share it with them on Facebook and tweeting it and LinkedIn. The idea is that we want to help your organisations and your agencies to advertise the role as far and wide as possible and maximise your advertising spend. And what I mean by that is because some of those boards are chargeable and some of those are free. So what we can do as part of Scout's capability is our reporting. And this is just a taste of the type of reporting that we have in Scout. For this particular role, in real time, we can track the number of applications being received per day. So we can determine how effective the advertising has been for this particular role. And we can also track in real time where the applications are coming from. And all this provides you with information to help you and with your future roles and how best to advertise them and where to advertise them, because we can provide you with a reporting capability that allows you to analyse this information by role type and by location and a whole range of other factors as well. Okay.
Ron, are those reports built as default?
Manages your day. So, as a HR person managing recruitment for an agency, you're coming in on a daily basis and you're coming in the morning and you've got a whole bunch of roles that are currently being advertised. You can see, when they're due to expire, when they were created, and you can see the application count on the right. So we can see how each role is performing in real time. And the bracketed number is the number of new applicants that have yet to be reviewed. So it can potentially determine, I guess, your workload in terms of, okay, what roles do I need to work on today? And maybe that might be the ones that have got the most applicants that are yet to be reviewed. I want to focus on the bottom one because it's got the most data that's going to help me to show you the product. But essentially, every applicant that applies for a role automatically comes into Scout. They automatically get a personalised notification thanking them for their application. And then from here, we can then manage that application process. Now, the first step in the process is the screening. Now, Scout has built-in screening capability. Now, I gave you a bit of a taste of it before. It was quite brief, but you may have seen that there were some questions as part of the application process. Now, those questions are your selection criteria, and they are configurable at the job level. And each of those questions can have an automated screening capability. That means, for example, that, if, for example, they're an overseas applicant like Ronald McDonald, he's from Minsk, the system has automatically marked him as ineligible because he's an overseas applicant, because he said he lives in Minsk. The same goes to John Fakeman. He's fake.
Are those questions and that screening and that rating configurable? The reason I ask is because
yes,
we're not able to use that to identify shortlist candidates. We must read every application that comes in. But for example, for screening questions or that type of, you must have a driver's license or you must have a WACOT number if you're a teacher and so on, that we'd be able to use it for type of situation, but we certainly couldn't use it to rate applicants to generate a shortlist.
Understood.
That's our legislation.
Yeah, and Stuart, that's a very similar scenario to a lot of our councils. They work in a very similar way. So what Scout's doing, and yes, those questions are completely configurable, and they're actually configurable by you. We'll help set them up initially, but it's designed to be a configurable system that you can manage and maintain and make changes on the fly, and it's at the job level. So you can set up those immediate knockout questions. They don't have a driver's license or they're not eligible to work in Australia because, for whatever reason. So we might be able to knock out that bottom 10 or 20 or 30%. But then the rest of the applications will flow through to the system. So what you see here, for example, is that there's been a couple of people that have been marked out automatically, but then the rest will sit at that open stage ready for the panel to review.
Nice.
Cool. So in terms of that review process, what essentially happens then is that what I might do is I'm going to now log out, and I'm going to log back in as the hiring manager, which is also a panel member view. So let me just go back into the demo hiring manager. So we've got that same role down the bottom. So directly from the dashboard, a panel member who's given access to this role or a hiring manager can click on the number 8, and he sees the same list. But what he can do is he can filter it. He can filter out those people that have been flagged automatically. So for example, if I just do this, I don't want to see those people that have been marked out automatically. So we can get rid of that. So what we can do here is essentially get rid of the noise. So those people that bottom 10 or 20% who are just not eligible, we don't even want to see them. So the panel member has an uncluttered view, and this system's designed for volume. So if you're getting hundreds of applicants, we can really focus their attention. Now, in terms of actually reviewing the applicants, let's drill down and let's look at my favorite character, Joey Tribbiani. And this is his candidate file. So we can see his information that he provided as part of his application. There is a suitability comment. So this is an individual panel member or hiring manager's field. So as a panel member, I can put information in here, but then each panel member who has access to this candidate would put in their own comment, or they can also rank them, which I'll get to in a moment. There's an activity center, so this is where we can do actions like adding notes and adding forms and sending emails and so on, and there's also a built-in interview scheduler. But every action that occurs within Scout is automatically tracked and logged, including emails and interviews and reference checks, anything you like really. It's very configurable. And of course, the resume is attached automatically. And during the recruitment process, if you need to add additional documentation, you can just attach a file, and all this information is stored in the cloud. So it's accessible anywhere, anytime. And then we have the responses. So these are the responses to those screening questions. Some of those questions were knockout questions, but a lot of them were just questions to help you determine their suitability. So they're addressing the selection criteria. Now, some of our clients can actually rank the responses. So the panel members or the hiring managers will actually rank each individual response. Some councils have an overall rating, so they'll just, each panel member will just provide an overall score. And some councils don't rank them or rate them at all, they just put in a comment. But the system is completely configurable depending on your own individual requirements, and we'll work with you to set that up. But the aim is essentially to have a central point of truth that all the panel members put their information in, and then once they've completed that task, they all get together and determine who gets shortlisted. How am I going for time, Sash?
You're good.
Okay.
Another 15.
What's next? What's next on the list in terms of going through the functionality? I don't want to go into too much detail here. So, Sasha, what was next in terms of the recruitment process?
Yeah.
Just with
if you can show us maybe, can you go to, let's say you've appointed someone and show us the onboarding? Because from what we've seen here, you guys have got the functionality that we've got, which is fine. Onboarding is something we're very interested in, and then if we could look at the analytics and then the other stuff, like the stuff that's outside of that list you had.
Yeah, okay. All right,
the rest of your HR technology circle.
Yeah, let's move on because I think from what I've shown you is probably enough that I need to show you today, and we might come back to this in a moment. But if we talk about, I guess, the next step in the process, because Scout is designed to manage that entire recruitment process. Actually, let me just roll back to being the HR person, so just bear with me for a minute. Okay, I'm just going to drill down to my roles, and let's say that Joey Tribbiani gets the chocolates. Okay, so beautiful. Essentially, in terms of what Scout does, we're experts in recruitment. Okay, and I want to talk a bit about, I guess, how we then help your organisation with the onboarding. So the slide that we sent you before might have been a little bit misleading, but I'll explain why. So you'll see here that there is a button called Export HRO. Can you all see that? I'll wait for it to come up.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so what that is that's what's going to kick off the onboarding process. So what we do here is we'll ask you to verify the mobile phone number, because that's important, and we'll put in a start date, whatever that might be today. And we hit submit. And what you're looking at is a real-time integration with one of our onboarding partners. And that's a really good segue into the slides. So let me go back to this particular slide, and let me just, hopefully that will come up. This is a really good segue into what Scout's been working on over the past 12 to 18 months. So that integration point that I just showed you is what we currently have with HR on board. Now, HR on board, like Scout, are specialists in a particular piece of functionality in the HR space. So HR on board specialise in onboarding, and I can talk you through that just briefly. Essentially what would happen in terms of this process, and it's a real-time process, once we click that button, that information immediately is available in the HR on board system. But that's also a cloud-based system, and we both have APIs using web services to send the data from one system to the other in real time. So then the person who's managing the onboard process would essentially go into the HR on board dashboard. They would have the opportunity to then see that this candidate has come across from Scout and needs to be onboarded. They choose the appropriate contract, and there's lots of capability around that. That information, that contract, would then be sent to the candidate via email. They'd get a text notification as well, welcoming them to the organisation. And then they're invited to actually log in to their own self-service portal where they can submit their contract, so they can sign it and send it back. They can also enter in their tax file number, their super, their banking details, emergency contact. There's an entire portal there that allows your organisation to present information to your new employee in terms of induction, information about your organisation, a whole range of things. It's a very flexible, configurable system.
From a user's point of view, that would be seamless. Mm-hmm. Yep.
100%.
And we have,
yes.
Yeah, we have no worries with any, if you're using third parties to do elements of your whole solution, that's not a problem from our point of view. The only issue would be that as long as the APIs are effective and the user experience is seamless, then that's not a drama.
And look, it's a really good point that you raised, Stuart, and I've been talking to lots of organisations about that, because it's a very rapidly changing market, and I've shown you some examples here of some of the organisations that we're working with, and we all agree that having a seamless experience for yourselves is important, because that's the key. You can go out to market and get a complete end-to-end HRIS type solution that does everything, but doesn't necessarily do everything well. That's the question. And what we're doing is we're giving you choice. We're giving you power to choose the elements that work best for you. So for example, Cognology, they're an organisation that do everything post-employment. So essentially, Scout is pre-employment and talent management and talent communities, and they're managing the recruitment process. And Cognology actually do the onboarding. They've got performance management capability, e-learning capability, and then integrate through to your payroll system. Now you've got Enbordo, which is a very modern and new onboarding employee lifecycle technology organisation that's very mobile-centric. So it's great for organisations that are mobile in terms of hospitality and retail and work in lots of different places, and they get all their information in terms of their employment and performance management all delivered to their mobile. You've got Sonru who do video. They've got a cool little video interviewing technology capability. And then you've got the payroll finance type organisations like Frontier who have Chris21. You've got Proceda and you've got Orion that provide HR and payroll capability. And all these organisations we work with every day with our clients. So there's a whole range, and this is, I guess, an ever-changing space. But that's just, I guess, a summary of who we're working with.
That's excellent. Just for your information, payroll is out of scope, but everything else is basically in scope at this stage.
Cool.
Obviously, awesome. Because we need to put through the options, and then once the executive decide which option is chosen, then we'll rate the tender accordingly. But yes, everything we need to know about the whole, as you call it, your HR technology circle, let's go into that.
Cool. Awesome. All right, Sasha?
Great. Is it worth just touching on Scout Talent as an additional platform?
Yeah,
Ron?
I think it actually is.
Talent management?
Yeah, it is. I will actually touch on it. We didn't sort of put any slides together on that today because we really wanted to focus on our strength, which is the recruitment product. But you know, certainly our Scout Talent product, which has been operational now for around 18 months, is designed to work with organisations who are wanting to build their talent communities and talent pipelines. Now, it's really around that front line where, for example, you want to be able to allow candidates to register their interest with your organisation. You want them to allow them to do that seamlessly and easily. So it's literally a one-click process. They could see an advertisement on a website that says, you know, come and work for the Department of Education. They click on a link and they end up on a landing page. And that landing page is a one-click registration process, and they end up in your talent community. And this is a platform that essentially harvests or manages all of these candidates that have registered interest, and it then becomes a marketing platform and a social media platform. So essentially what you can do is you can build out marketing medium, so you can actually touch these candidates on a regular basis with regular information about your organisation and regular touch points, just letting them know what you guys are doing, and therefore when roles become available, because you've been connecting with them on a regular basis, they're more inclined to be attracted to the role that you're presenting in front of them. But it's also a searchable tool. You know, it's a database that you're managing in terms of the candidates. They're your candidates, and you can go in there at any time and you can search for candidates based on role, based on skill, based on location. So I'm not entirely sure if it's relevant to the agencies in Western Australia, but it's certainly something that we're working on at the moment.
It's something that we'd like to be able to provide, because we've obviously got 109,000 staff within WA government. So being able to identify matches within and also have registry type functions like what you're describing for people who can just register their interest is also, something that we don't utilise enough. So it is interesting to hear that you've got that sort of stuff in on your scope or within your system.
Yeah, and that sort of capability relates to both external and internal applicants, or candidates. So yeah, that could, that's certainly relevant. Cool. Okay, Sash.
Great, thank you, Ron. And I guess just really to reaffirm some of those other aspects as an organisation. So Scout obviously is a separate business entity, but it does sit here within our parent organisation, which is Employment Office. So that's where I sit. And Employment Office is a recruitment marketing organisation. So the benefits to all of our Scout clients, Scout Enterprise clients, is that they do have access to such a broader range of recruitment marketing specialists and tools that we can offer outside of just Scout. So we have an employee branding specialist here that works with clients on EVPs and similar. We've got a recruitment specialist team that liaises with those clients independently in regards to candidate engagement, the interviewing. Ron mentioned on that video technology. Obviously, there are certain sites that provide that, and we can do that on an agency-by-agency basis, right through to things like skills and behavioural testing, cognitive testing, and so forth. So I guess it's really just making you aware that underpinning Scout as a software system, we do have a wide range of resources available to both the PSC and those relevant agencies that can support in enhancing that recruitment process for you. So that's us. Are there anything that we haven't touched on, or any specific questions, or you'd like us to elaborate on at this stage, Stuart?
Yeah, what I'd like is, if we go back to that HR technology circle,
yep.
Can we just have a discussion around some of those other functions? So, for example, a question that I have is, you talk about succession planning, performance support, performance management. Are they third-party applications? Is that what you mentioned previously? My question is basically, if we went... Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry, keep going, Stuart.
If we had if the option that is selected is to do a whole circle, as we call it, you would, the bid that you would put in would involve a couple of different third parties by the sounds of it, which isn't a problem. But can you cover, through your third parties, all of those requirements on that page? And the other question was, would that solution be capable of dealing with the capacity or the numbers that we would need, i.e. 120 different agencies, every one of those being with their own logins and so on, the branding, the 15,000 vacancies a year, probably an average of about 10, I think, vacancy applications per vacancy as a indication.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's
yeah, that's a really good question. In terms of volume, if we talk about Scout, for example, which is, we use Amazon as our hosting provider, and that obviously ticks the boxes in terms of legalities in Australia. We've got some clients like the Attorney General's Department in South Australia that have very stringent rules around data for that organisation, which is a government organisation. Now, in terms of Scout, Sasha talked before about the number of clients that we have, and Scout at the moment, I think, is running at maybe 1 million to 1.5 million candidates in the Scout system at the moment. So Scout is very much geared towards high volume. If we think about the amount of recruitment volume that occurs with Flight Centre, our largest client, I mean, they've got some 20,000 employees, and they're generating hundreds of roles a week through the Scout system. But if you look at the number of roles in total, it's a huge number. So Scout certainly has that infrastructure to handle that sort of volume that you're talking about. And then, sorry?
Keep going. All good.
In terms of our partners, what we're doing is we're working with these organisations, and we're finding best fit. So some of the organisations that we're talking to provide capability for smaller clients. We're talking to some clients that only have 200 or 300 employees, and we find technology that will match and align with that. And then we have other technology partners that are geared for more high volume. So Cognology, for example, certainly has those capabilities, and it has the capability in terms of size of organisation. And Cognology is one example of a number that we're talking to that can handle, the performance management and the e-learning and the workforce planning. And they've certainly got the infrastructure behind them to manage that. But that's just a sample. We're essentially every month we're talking to different organisations all the time, and that, I guess, I'm trying to think of the right word for it. The organisation that we're partnering with is growing. Every few months that number is growing. So if we go back to that slide with the different organisations, for example, Emborder, I spoke to them just recently, and that is really the technology behind that is simply groundbreaking, and it blew me away in terms of the technology and the architecture behind it, and that's geared for, they, for example, had a meeting with Telstra recently, as well as Coles, I should say, and they actually signed up Coles in a test bed with one particular region with I think 400 stores, and they're rolling that out as we speak. So different companies have different growth capabilities, and we would choose the right partner to align with your requirements in terms of your tender.
That's a really good way of approaching it. Can we have a look and maybe a demo of the analytics or reporting elements even if it's just on the recruitment side of things, just to get an idea of the reporting that's available and so on?
So in terms of today's presentation,
yes, go ahead.
In terms of today's presentation, I haven't prepped I guess more reporting capabilities, but I can talk about it. So let me just go back to this dashboard. You know, what we've done is we've gone from, I guess, the old school of running a report that looks like a PDF document or a list, or maybe it goes into Excel, and it's got all the data, but it's a bit of a mishmash. And what we're trying to do is we're really trying to engage the visual experience. Now, of course, all of the reporting can be exportable and can be managed. You know, for example, it can be exported to Excel if you want to start playing around with the data as such. We don't, for example, have a report writer as such. But what we do is we're trying to work on simplicity by delivering reports to clients that they can use on a day-to-day basis that we think is relevant to the market that we operate in. So to give you an idea, we have other reporting capabilities around things like time to hire, and that can be segmented by any which way, by division, by department, by role type. We've also got things like recruitment activity in terms of the number of applications being received, the number of applications being processed in terms of who gets shortlisted, who gets interviewed, who gets to the second round, who gets to third base, and who makes a home run. All this sort of capability is out of the box with Scout. I think there's some other reports that aren't coming to mind right now, but what we can do is we can give you a list of the types of reports that we've got at the moment that are in the system. We might actually, as a post demo, we'll send that through to you. But that
and I guess the other thing would be that you could include that information into the response from Sasha, that type of stuff. The other question I've got is, if you're using we do a whole circle solution and you're using 2 or 3 different providers, are we able to get reporting across that entire suite of functionalities through a single report?
Across the whole data set rather than just fragmented data sets?
That's another really good question. There's probably a couple of ways to approach that. It was described to me the other day that sometimes when you look at multiple systems that you might have a base, I guess a base structure, where you might have an overriding system that everything feeds into. So, for example, you might have a finance system where everything plugs into. In terms of just trying to keep today's demonstration fairly straightforward, in terms of the integration points, they are two-way integration points, and it depends on the type of reporting that you're trying to achieve. In terms of recruitment activity, that type of reporting occurs in Scout. In terms of employee reporting activity, that information would occur in our employee management system, whether it be a Cognology or a HR on board or something else. If there are financial reporting, in terms of advertising effectiveness, that sort of information would probably flow through to your finance system, and we would make sure that that financial information or that analytics would flow from Scout to your finance system. So it really just depends on the type of reporting that you're trying to achieve and where the data would come from, but I certainly understand your concerns.
Thank you.
Thanks for that. Any other questions at this stage? One voice, anything? No? Do you have the capability within your solution to incorporate capability frameworks? And the one that I'm thinking about in particular is for ICT roles, the skills framework for the information age. Have you come across that, or have you got capability framework functionality in the solution?
Sasha?
I was going to pass it to you.
No, I'll have a go at it. I think, if I understand correctly, are you talking about the ideal candidate? Are you talking about the metrics behind what is an ideal candidate?
What it is about things like we have a capability framework within WA government over 5 sort of elements. So it's being able to liaise with stakeholders and be ethical and so on and so forth. And they're at different levels, and it's about mapping those capabilities so that if you create a role, you can put capabilities into that role and then identify candidates that have those capabilities. And for the ICT instance, it might be that they need certain capabilities through the SOPHIA framework, that skills framework for the information age. They may need a certain skill at a certain capability. You put that into the job description, and then if a person replies and they have the matching capabilities, they're highlighted or placed into the shortlist or placed into the to be contacted or something like that.
Let me show you something.
Yep.
I'm just going to open up the hood on this magnificent little V8 engine that I've got here.
Yeah.
And waiting. Okay, I'm just going to edit this role. Now, within this role, now this is the advertisements that I touched on early on, and this is, for example, where you have your branding of your advertisement and your content, and this is where a candidate can apply for the role. And for example, these are the questions that are mapped out for this role, and it's designed. One of the things that we've done with this system, Stuart, is we've designed this system to be a self-service system. We don't want to build a system for you that takes 6 months and it's designed specifically the way that you want it and you're stuck with it. We're designing an intuitive, user-friendly system that you can change at any time in the future if you want to. So these are the questions for this role. And from that, we also have this automated screening capability. So that last point that you just made around flagging a particular skill, now this is a demo database, but if the guy owns a car, I'm going to flag them so that we can configure that at the job level. So for this particular role, if the guy says, yes, I've got that particular capability, we can flag them. If they like chocolate, for example, we automatically shortlist them because I think that's a really important skill. But this is all highly configurable. So the answer to your question is yes, we can do that. And not only will we flag them at the job level when they first come through and apply for the role. So if we go back to my dashboard and go into the applicant list, you'll see that one of the candidates was flagged. So Tom Jones is a great singer. He was flagged because he's a great singer. He's got that great skill set. So it's flagged at the job level for this role. But this stuff is also fully searchable. We've got a full searching capability so that over time you can search back in time in terms of previous roles and previous applicants, and you can sort of find this stuff as well. Have I answered the question, Stuart?
Yeah, that's fine. It's as long as we can create the questions accordingly, then we'll be able to do a search, and we can do a search then of applicants from previous vacancies if we want.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Let me just bring up.
Sorry, go ahead. You go.
I'm just going to bring up one of the local clients, Aegis Aged Care. They've got a really cool job application process. This is their career site. I'm just going to quickly bring up one of their roles. So it's not relevant to yourselves, but it is. So this is the application process, and this is the advertisement that a candidate will see and they'll apply for. And these are the questions. So you can see, it's a really easy process for a candidate to apply for a role. And these are the types of configurable questions that I was talking about where the response could be flagged. So if they did have a Cert 3 in aged care, it's not a must-have, but you might want to flag that applicant as they come into the system, or you might want to search history on that type of question.
Yeah, no, that's all good. That's fine, yeah.
Cool, awesome.
Yeah, thank you for that. Any other questions at this end, guys? No, we're all good. I'm going to say, guys, that was really good. Thank you for that demo. I'm just conscious of the time, and we unfortunately have another demonstration soon, so we've got to sort of love you. But, at this stage, Sasha, any follow-ups, I'll come through you.
Great.
And Ron, thank you for the demo. Sasha, thank you for your time. Do you guys have any other questions at this point? Because we're all good at this end.
No, I think we're good at this stage.
Cool.
Thank you all very much for for your time today and the opportunity.
Yeah,
Yep.
no worries, Ron. I think what will happen is that, as I said, Sasha, I'll be in touch over the next few weeks and throughout. Now that we've got this sort of environmental scan pretty much done, we've got a good idea of what is and isn't available and so on. And thank you guys for your demo. We'll liaise throughout. Sasha, anytime you want to get in touch, just let me know. Effectively, what will happen is I'll send you that email with that request for indicative costing. There's no obligation to reply at all. If you don't want to, don't feel obliged to. And basically, it'll be my head down, tail up until September, writing all these documents and crunching numbers and so on and so forth. But any time you want to get in touch, please do so. Once we know the outcome, then we'll start the tender process. And obviously, because we've got your contact details, you'll be advised when things are published online and various so on and so forth. So you'll be in the loop, but probably I'd imagine that after I talk to you and send you something next week, you might find that I'm a little bit off the radar because I'll be busy writing various documents.
That's no problem. Thanks for that update. And as Ron said, thank you, you know, for the opportunity just to speak with you and show you Scout this morning.
Yeah, no, fantastic. So thanks very much, guys. Have an awesome weekend and take it easy.
Thanks, guys. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Yeah.